It's Kenneth time, and from the teasers I've seen on Twitter,
They used to call me One because I didn't have an actual name.
it looks like we're getting another arsonist character. They used to call you One? One is a harder name than Kenneth.
And everyone that gets in my way.
Looks like he's got like an evil streak to him. I kind of like this trailer, like everything all red.
Again.
This is fire, full pun intended.
No feelings for the person who abandoned me.
Look at his little eyeliner. He's got a little eyeliner, like the eyelash eyeliner on the bottom of his eyes. I love that. Okay, melee axe. It looks like, oh, you can dash backwards and fire your projectile forward. That looks like Q, W, auto attack, some type of auto attack and power. He's so pretty. Wait, he didn't look like this in his splash art. I kind of love him. Yeah, it looks like an auto reset. There's the alt. It looks like, not to like shit on this character, but it kind of just looks like reskinned abilities from other characters. That like maybe look like Aatrox Q a little bit too, like the three proc thing. Oh, look at him. He's a broken boy. That has to be the alt, right? Yeah, it looks like he can like E-dodge stuff while moving, and then that is like an auto attack reset type of thing. We'll have to see if he's bulky or not, because he's gonna be in the middle of a lot of the fight. That trailer looked pretty cool though. I like the whole red theme to him. What's poppin' everyone, it's your boy Levi, and here are the 23 things you missed in the Kenneth trailer. Technically this first one's not from the trailer, but the name 01 was given to him because he was never given a name at the orphanage. Knowing his origin is from an orphanage kind of makes point number 2 make sense, so I wanted to set it up with that. In the middle of Kenneth's axe is a cross pate. This is a Christian cross used as a symbol of valor. Kenneth's is a bit more rounded, being a cross pate Elise. Forgive my French. This symbolizes the Order of Courage, a state decoration of the modern-day Russian Federation. We don't have all of Kenneth's lore yet, and we don't know where he's from. Considering he grew up in an orphanage, we'll have to see if this is the same orphanage of the other characters' lore. Notably, Rosie and Isla also grew up in Catholic orphanages. The evidence that points to the Russian part, though, is the weapon. This is a double-headed axe, sometimes also called a great axe, butterfly wing axe, or in medieval times, a double-headed spear or polearm axe. Important to note that this axe is definitely played up and modified to look cooler for the game. These axes are often bare bones looking and are often light enough to swing, so you actually lose force by having a double-headed axe, so they weren't that common. Double-headed axe with a tool on one side and an axe blade on the other, which much more common, and you're almost never using both sides at once. As always, my scholarly research of going on Reddit, this time Quora, has stated that the Wagner group in Russia also use these. Honestly, I think this weapon most resembles a Fijian double axe shredder, but I can't find anywhere that would tie to that. Given that when he lifts up his arms to swing his axe, his back is exposed. This just points out that he's wearing like streetwear rather than a fireproof jacket. Probably not a fashion choice and more sentimental to his lore. Kenneth has bracelets on, or rather, it looks like a giant necklace with a pendant wrapped around his wrist. This is probably 2 abilities. Kenneth stops moving after blinking to charge a crescent in front of him. Given that he stops after inputting the crescent and what we see later in the video, he probably has another ability that lets him dash forward mid-charge. This is also a knock-up, not a knock-back. Magnus doesn't appear to get stunned into the wall and just pops straight up. Also, Magnus has bitter retribution on him this whole time, so it's likely means that they were fighting prior to this clip. After basic attacking, he gets some type of shield. Looks like he can dash in any direction to reposition the attack. Maybe the dash or the knockup is an attack speed steroid because it looks like he's attacking rather fast. It looks like he also might be an AP character and not an AMP character because it seems he gets bonus effects from basic attacking. The first basic attack grants him his shield, the second puts a mark under him, and the third consumes it. Notice how Kenneth is facing forward on the first 2 basic attacks, but for the third, the one that consumes the mark, he almost fully rotates around. Not to mention it's a swirl pattern that's below him. More on this later. There's so much fire in these effects, it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. If you look closely here, Dylan gets knocked up originally before being knocked up again by the crescent we've seen before. There's a thin line that connects from Kenneth where she got knocked up from. Wherever this line came from is a knock-up ability, and the crescent ability is either the second part of it or a separate ability. I think in the trailer reaction, I mentioned this was similar to Aatrox from League of Legends. This to me is probably the ultimate. Kenneth lifts Dylan into the air, and notice how right before the screen glitches for a transition, the line remains on the ground when she crashes down. This is the ability that's used in the previous Dylan clip. He then slashes at her in the air and then slams her down onto the ground. While doing so, it looks like he gets a heal from skills in his kit. It does look like he applies an attack speed debuff. Sorry, I'm really rusty on my symbols. There's also another symbol here which I generally don't think I know what it is. I'd love to be like, this is a new debuff, but I'm sure it's probably something I'm just forgetting. Leave a comment letting me know if you recognize it. It's also hard to see here, but Kenneth starts charging the crescent again before Dylan lands. This makes me think that he might have some combos. A bit of low-hanging fruit, but the color red in color theory is associated with fire, violence, danger, and warfare. Kenneth obviously has a lot of fire themes in his kit. but I think it fits well with his backstory as well. Warm colors in general are associated with passion and positivity. I think it's fitting that Kenneth says, try managing your anger because you can't manage people's stupidity, which I think is oddly meant to be positive. In my friend group, we say stop fucking inting, dumbass, but I guess his way is beautiful too. It looks like Kenneth doesn't get his shield on the first basic attack on Isla here, but also notice how Bitter Retribution also doesn't proc until the second basic attack and not on the Crescent. That makes me think it's on a set ability, and these two were just fighting prior. Here we see Kenneth fighting Isaac, and we start the fight with Isaac having Bitter Retribution similar to the Isla. Kenneth also already has his shield proc, which I think furthers the previous theory. Kenneth also starts with one proc of Isaac's passive too, so it's likely all that's occurred up to here is one exchangement of basic attack each. Then we see a micro dash forward into a dark red slash and a faded orange slash. The dark red slash is axe skill, which explains the little micro dash forward, and then the orange slash is the third basic attack on the sequence. This consumes the mark under Kenneth, and considering the mark under him is also a swirl, it's a swirling basic attack. Think of it more like Luke, not in the sense like Camillo. He then regular basic attacks one more time, which again, if you're an amp character, you're not optimizing this many basic attacks in, and then ends with the ult. This clip here is the closest we're going to see in the trailer to a diagonal dash, but I think it confirms the dash being a free aim skill shot and not on a grid or targeted. Kenneth blink dashes into the Crescent knockup, and notice what Lennox is doing here. She ults the bat and the boar like your typical solo queue Lennox. This is important because it means the boar and the bat are aggroed onto her. Once Kenneth does the swirl slash, the animals still attack Lennox, so this confirms that it doesn't taunt. Maybe it has some different CC effects on it, or maybe it's just damage. We can't really tell. We then get the probable ult again, and to no one's surprise, I'm sure, it's AoE picking up all three targets. Notice how when the Lennox lands those, she immediately whips skills, so there doesn't seem to be any CC effects on it. I think it's funny that in the trailer, Kenneth says, just like this old archery range, I was also abandoned. For the cinematic nerds like me, this one's for you. This is actually a reverse shot of the pathway from alley to police station. The car on the right is normally on the left for our in-game angle. This is the area where the wolves would be to the top entrance of police. This almost got me because there are boards like this on the pathway from archery to gas station, but the double wall shows that it can't be there. Also, the camera does a full spin while traveling to Kenneth. I think this is another theme of swirl and spiraling that we see on his passive, but probably also relevant to how his life is spiraling after leaving the orphanage. The next shot we see is Kenneth laying in a bed. Once again, they tried to get me because I thought this was symbolizing the orphanage, but it's actually the left side wall of hospital. It's hard to see with our camera angle in game, but you can see the bed frame grid next to the bed that Kenneth would be laying on. This is probably the death animation. More evidence for the independent dash. Looks like he dashes into the ultimate, which is going to be crazy hard spell to react to in my opinion. Once again, when Isol lands, like Lennox, we don't see any CC effects. Isol actually takes a step forward, so it seems like Abigail ulti, where you'll have a second to flash out of the damage crash. We get the symbols again off the Yuki's dual sword dash, and once again, Kenneth doesn't get a shield on his first basic attack, and Bitter is already procced. He knocks up the Yuki, who's in ultimate, and narrowly dashes through him to avoid getting hit. I honestly can't believe that he avoided it. This clip pretty much just shows how quick you can use his abilities one after the other. This Bernice clip is weird as fuck, and I think I figured out what's happening here. Kenneth gets the ult on Bernice, and I think the charge kills the Bernice, which is why he doesn't get knocked up from it. And then as he's going into a down state because team modes, his down body gets knocked up on the crash, but he's still in his death animation, which is why it looks weird. This is the last gameplay clip here, and it's just fighting a Dailin. I think this is just showing again his attack speed with axe skill and dash. He doesn't basic attack after the dash, so we can't really tell if it's a basic attack reset. We then end with a bunch of spiral slashes again, fitting the theme, before ending with his rest animation. Overall, I think Kenneth has a lot less in his trailer than someone like Tsubame, but still pretty cool to see some stuff. I really hope a lot of the visuals were intentional. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment and let me know if I missed anything. If you missed my last week video, I put out an update regarding some important news about Eternal Return. Click or tap the screen now to be taken to that video, where I also give a channel update about future content on this channel.